You cannot conceive, nor can I, the appalling strangeness of the grace of God. That's one of the last lines in Graham Greene's novel, The End of the Affair. The character Maurice, whose faith, if he has one, is characterized more by anger at God than by love of God, finds that he has to wrestle with this God who is free to do whatever he pleases with his life. And so he concludes, you cannot conceive, nor can I, the appalling strangeness of the grace of God. In Matthew 20, Jesus tells a parable. For the kingdom of heaven, he says, is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire laborers for his vineyard. After agreeing with the laborers for the usual daily wage, he sent them out into his vineyard. When he went out about 9 o'clock, he saw others standing idle in the marketplace, and he said to them, you also go into the vineyard, and I will pay you whatever is right. God's like that, Jesus says. God agrees to give you what's fair. Whatever is right, God will pay you. Whatever is right. Well, that's what I want. I want a consistent world. I want to know that justice will be done, that good will be rewarded and evil will not. I expect God to be righteous, someone I can count on. Here's the deal, God. I give to you, you give to me. I give you an offering, I expect something in return. Your prayers ever get like that? Will you ever start like negotiations with God? Just give me this one thing, God. Next Sunday morning, I'll get up and watch church online with all the rest of them. I've been good, so could you please just give me this one thing? I mean, good works must be rewarded. If God doesn't reward us for good works, why do them? This just makes sense to us. We know God is good by the way God rewards what is fair and square. We figure God is good because God notices when we're good. Surely, God sees what you do and does not forget it. God will even give you a reward, a just reward for whatever you do. It's rewarding to follow Jesus, to live for God. So God is fair. That's great. God will do whatever is right. Or aren't you sure that it's not God who will do whatever is right? Maybe you're more sure that you're the one who's right. And what you do is right. And what you think and what you have always thought and what you have always believed is righteous. All American maybe, patriotic maybe, or your true vision of justice. Beware. Beware, because whenever you are sure that you are right, that you are on the side of right, you are in the greatest danger of doing the greatest evil. Call the laborers and give them their pay, the parable says, beginning with the last and going to the first. Beginning with the last? That's not right. That's not the way we do things, God. We begin at the front of the line with those who come first. When those hired about 5 o'clock came, each of them received the usual daily wage, just like everybody else. A full day's wage, even though they barely gotten their hands dirty. Well, that's crazy. Now, when the first came, they thought they would receive more, but each of them also received the usual daily wage. And when they received it, they grumbled against the landowner, saying, "See here, these last worked only 1 hour, and you've made them equal to us, who have borne the burden of the day and the scorching heat. That's not fair." It just grates on us, doesn't it? Why did he hire those guys in the first place? Why weren't they there in the morning if they really wanted a job? Why don't they get a job and go to work and make something of themselves? Maybe they were hoping for some kind of welfare state where they could take advantage of God at the last minute. You cannot conceive, nor can I, the appalling strangeness of the grace of God. You know, if we'd stop looking for a minute at the workers, if we could just stop looking at ourselves for a minute, we might notice that the main character in this story It's not us. It's the landowner. The hardest worker here is the landowner. He just never stops. He's out there first thing in the morning waiting for the laborers to show up. And as soon as he sees them, he hires them and gives them good work to do. And then he's back in the marketplace looking for those with nothing to do. All day he travels back and forth between his vineyard and the marketplace, calling those whose lives would be wasted otherwise, even those who show up at the last minute, giving them meaningful work to do, including them all when he hands out his rewards. Every time he finds somebody new, every time he hires somebody, it's a moment of grace. So you know what God's righteousness is like? You know what God's fairness is like? It's more than fair. God's fairness is God looking for you high and low, up and down the streets, beating the bushes to see what you've gotten yourself into, never giving up on you, never doubting your gifts and abilities, always ready to put them to use, always ready to see what you can do. I'll pay you whatever is right, God says. But what is right in God's eyes? Right is whatever is generous. Righteousness is grace. If you would be righteous, then you must be gracious. It is so strange. It's not what we would do. Our world, we think, is painfully different. In our world, we insist that justice be done, as long as it's not done to us. But this is the strange, appalling mercy of God. Not what's right, but what is more than right. To be righteous is to be gracious and merciful. And if God is more than gracious, what should we be? Should we not give up our personal righteousness and take up the righteousness not of being right, but of being unreasonably gracious with others, however strange that may seem?